of coffee, sit back and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life features stories to inspire and motivate you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Visit cyacyl.com.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. On Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we emphasize the importance of following your dreams and finding your passion in life's calling. Our guests provide insight, tips, and strategies. Today's guest, Avis Richards, is an example of one woman who found her passion, followed her dream, and is changing lives with her work. Avis was living a comfortable life as a wife and mother, contributing to society through her good works, when she had an awakening moment and decided to turn her personal philanthropy into a career. Avis created Bird's Nest Foundation, a nonprofit creative group that produces high-quality documentaries, short videos, and public service announcements for charitable organizations. Her productions have touched upon important topics such as education, health, women's issues, the environment, violence, and more. She was recently nominated for several New York Emmy Awards for her weekly TV series produced through Bird's Nest. Welcome, Avis. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Avis, since you've had what you have referred to as your awakening moment, that aha moment that so many of us experience in our lives, your work has been a major success in your chosen field. Tell us a little bit about your life before you created the Bird's Nest Foundation.
Joan, probably typical of a lot of women. You know, I worked right out of college, got married, had kids, and decided, I was lucky enough to have the option to stay home and raise my children. So it was that typical housewife, homemaker, mom, running to sporting events with the kids in the car all day, driving them back and forth to wherever they needed to go. But then when they were in school full time, I got to a period where something clicked. I needed more.
Avis, let me ask you, because I had a similar awakening moment, and did you find that there was one day when you just looked in the mirror and you had no idea who was looking back at you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny because, fitness was always a part of my life. But when I had so much time on my hands, I was working out like 6 days a week. I was biking 200 miles a week. And I was an athlete without a real sport. And that was sort of that moment where I said, well, what am I doing here? I need more. And I should be doing more. And I think I need to set a great example for my children, too, as a mom who has a career. So we'll talk more, I'm sure. We'll get into how it all started, but that was my awakening moment.
And that's why I was excited about speaking with you today. Last night I actually spoke to a women's group, and as I was sharing my story, which is very similar to what you just described, the women in the room were all nodding their head because they completely understood what I was saying. And that's why I wanted you to be a wonderful example that once you figure out that you need to do something, you weren't afraid to take those steps. And that's the most important thing, I feel, is getting over that fear. That's what holds us back. So I was really looking forward to sharing your inspiring story today.
Talking about fear, I never thought in terms of fear. It was more about, I know who I am. I know what my strengths are. So I married my confidence and my skills with a passion and a vision. So there's a nexus that comes together to really get to your dream.
That is the key. You have to have passion. Otherwise, you can't fulfill a dream. So how did you find your passion?
Well, I didn't go to school for filmmaking, but I had a love of media. And I happened to have been working on a book project also with a photographer at the time who had a studio. So I was a little involved in media, but not as a career. But I took that skill, that creative skill, and all the work I did with philanthropy. I chaired events, I sat on boards, and I realized that there was a big void. We're going back like 10 years now, maybe even more. There weren't a lot of good storytellers in that arena. So you'd go to an event and they'd have more of a PowerPoint presentation trying to tell their story, or a video that wasn't really well. So I knew there was a market there. I knew there was a need there. And that's how I came to my idea. Let me build this business.
Avis, when you decided to make this change in your life, and I'm asking this question because I know that this happens quite often mostly with women, I'm sure it happens with men as well, but when they change the playing rules in the family, you were the mom, you were the one that gave all of your time and yourself to your husband, to your children. Did you meet with any resistance? Because I actually had this conversation with Dr. Christian Northrup, and I asked her what happens when women change the rules within our lives. And she said it's almost like declaring political warfare on our family. Did you meet with any resistance when you wanted to make these changes?
That's a great question, Joan, and I haven't thought about that in a really long time. I started really small. I took baby steps. I worked from home at first. And I only worked a few hours, maybe, the first few months, a little bit more as time went on. I was building things, but always working from home. I'd always make sure that I didn't leave till, kids were fed on the bus, got home before 3 o'clock. I mean, I was frazzled. I was always rushing.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked everything around my kids' schedule. But even still, if there was a moment that I had to leave the house, and like they felt needy or needed me, it was like Mommy's never there for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was huge. I don't think my husband, ever said anything. He was always supportive. But my kids, they definitely felt it. It was like warfare. It's like, what do you mean I'm not here? I'm always home.
Mm-hmm.
I think in time, as they grew up, and I was there, now they couldn't be prouder. Both my kids are involved in the work that I do also now. And this afternoon, we're actually filming with my son. I don't know what he'll say to me in later life because he's always working, if it's baseball or school, or he has a television show that we produce called Dylan's Lunchbox. All about promoting healthy nutrition, and it's part of our lunch campaign. So he's a food critic, and he goes into the healthiest restaurants in the New York City area and reviews the restaurants, cooks with the chefs, and then he also does segments with nutrition experts, nutritionists, doctors, exercise physiologists. Today he's doing yoga with one of the top yogis in New York City, Gwen Lawrence. So this is all part of the show. So even he's gotten involved. My daughter's graduating from college. She wants to work in production. I know she does want to come to work for me at some point, but I want her, to get that experience in the world first. So, they've all been involved now in my career, which is wonderful to have seen the evolution of all of this.
You just spoke about starting with baby steps, and now you're describing this tremendous success. What advice would you offer to someone that's just starting out to get from those beginning stages to where you are now?
First of all, you've got to have the dream. And you have to, have your education in place, I'd say, a well-thought-out business plan. I was lucky enough, I built a great team, so I have solid support. For me, I've had, because my work is philanthropic, I've had great, I call them angel sponsors. But it takes time. It takes a lot of hard work. And, it's really about you've got to have the passion to do it and go after it.
When I go out and speak, and you keep mentioning passion, and I think that that's a key. Dr. Gay Hendricks, in his book, The Big Leap, he talks about having 3 zones. We have our zone of competence, our zone of excellence, and our zone of genius. And when you find that zone of genius, that's really when you get your mojo going and you're passionate. And this, you don't even view this as work, do you, Avis? This is your life now. Am I right?
My life. I never think about it as work.
And you are in your zone of genius, as Dr. Hendricks would say.
Oh, good to hear.
And, but that's by definition of it. It's not a chore. It doesn't feel like work. You're passionate about it. You're excited. You live it. You sleep it. You breathe it. And that's what I try to inspire people to step out of that complacency of their life and really challenge themselves in some way to start to get the juices flowing and to really find their life path? Because I think, as you'll agree, once you do, everything opens up for you and life becomes such a joy.
Yeah, it's made such an impact on my personal life. I'm so much more fulfilled. My work really gives me a tremendous sense of satisfaction, accomplishment, fulfillment, yet I realize how much more I still have to do. So that's what's really exciting.
Avis, tell us about some of your projects that you're working on right now.
Right now we're in production for Dylan's Lunchbox, which at this point it's still going to be on NYC Media. We're also in Taxi TV, so if you're in New York and listening, switch from NBC over to NYC Media and you'll get a chance to catch a glimpse of Dylan's Lunchbox. And that's a 12-episode series. So we're visiting once again this year some of the greatest healthy restaurants in New York City and finding out, what they're cooking and meeting with a lot of great nutritionists and exercise physiologists to give us healthy everyday tips that anyone can use to have a healthier lifestyle. We're also filming our second documentary called Lunch, the Solutions. Last time we kind of exposed the cafeteria world and the foods that are being served in school lunches these days and, just what could be done, but now parents want to know more. How can we make changes in our child's cafeteria or in our school lunches? So this time we're interviewing great people around the country that are doing this work to hopefully, inspire people to keep working on this issue because childhood obesity, something has to change. Our children today, 1980, I think most diseases have doubled, tripled, and some have even quadrupled. We see childhood onset diabetes, cancer rates have risen, problems with children's gallbladders, heart disease. The list goes on and on and on. And most of it, or a lot of it can be equated to, how our children are being fed and what they're eating. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of children, 3/4 of their meals are in the school lunch program. They're subsidized. They'll have breakfast there. They'll have lunch there. And they get home sometimes to a working mom who's working 3 jobs. And, I can totally understand she may pick up food and maybe it's not that healthy because she's exhausted and she doesn't have time or too tired to cook that healthy meal. And we've really got to change the way we look at food. Instead of a fast food movement, let's start thinking more like the slow food movement. And maybe we can encourage these moms through a little education. It's better, instead of picking up that fried chicken, to buy a piece of chicken and maybe some vegetables, steam them, and just grill that piece of chicken at home.
Well, I think that's a wonderful project that you're describing. Dr. Mark Hyman was a recent guest on the show, and he spoke to me about the fact that we are raising some of the most the unhealthiest generation. We're raising our children to be sicker and to die younger. So I'm very happy to hear that you're working on a project like that.
I happen to know Dr. Hyman, we've discussed this before, and that's absolutely right. This next generation, our children, have a shorter lifespan than we do. That's pretty scary.
And it is scary with how educated we're all supposed to be today as opposed to previous generations.
Exactly.
Avis, we need to take a break. When we return, I'll continue my conversation with Avis Richards. This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life now has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox. Each month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide the information that you need to inspire and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. As philosopher Francis Bacon said, knowledge is power. Use the wisdom provided in the publication and apply it to your everyday life. Visit cyacyl.com for more information or to begin your free subscription. That's cyacyl.com. Welcome back to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman, and our guest today is Avis Richards, founder of Bird's Nest Foundation, a nonprofit creative group that produces documentaries, short videos, and PSAs for charitable organizations. We've been talking with Avis today about the importance of finding one's passion and following our life path. And Avis, before break, you were sharing some of your most recent projects with us. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your charitable work. You were a founding member of Gilda's Club for Cancer Support. You're on the board of directors for Help USA, Sophie's Voice for Spinal Bifida, Bat for the Cure for Prostate Cancer, Earth Day Network, Our Baby Foundation for Infant Mortality. You're involved with the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation for Domestic Violence, Cancer Schmancer, the Boomer Esiason Foundation, Lance Armstrong Foundation, American Cancer Society, plus many others. You are obviously committed to social causes and helping others. And recently I had the opportunity to interview Erin Brockovich, and we spoke about the importance of giving back to society. How has your charitable work enabled you to make a difference in the world? And what would you say is the important thing that people can really obtain for themselves by giving back and becoming involved in our society?
Well, my charitable work is also my career, which I'm so lucky and so fortunate to be able to do. By making these films, we work with about 20 to 30 different nonprofits now a year, and we may do a short PSA, which is just 30 seconds for television broadcast, or a full-length documentary for them, or a television show which supports a big campaign that we started, like Lunch NYC. It's very fulfilling to be able to give back and be able to help others. But, it also takes a lot of hard work, but there's so many different ways that you can do it. It's not about writing the check. You can easily, whether it's giving $10 or $10,000, write the check. But the real work is if you can find something or a nonprofit that you'd like to help and really go over there and meet the people, learn about the work that they're doing, and then somehow get involved. It could be volunteering with groups that they are supporting and organizing, or helping with an event, or introducing them even to other people that may be able to make an impact on that nonprofit. There's just a lot of different ways you can take your work as a philanthropist, and anyone can be a philanthropist, and anyone can be a working philanthropist. And it can take just a little bit of time. All nonprofits need a little bit of extra help, so it's great if you can get out there and do that work.
And you get so much when you give to others, isn't that true?
Oh, it's always better to give back than receive, I think. And we've even taken that to a level with, our business. It's not just about providing these grants, but the way we're able to do it is we have people in media that come to work with us, editors, videographers, photographers, sound engineers, people that work in PR. They all do the work pro bono with us. Or, possibly we may pay them a very small stipend. But that's how we get these projects done. And that's a way for them to give back also and, donate their time to these nonprofits.
Avis, for someone who's sitting on the couch right now, who has a dream, something that they'd like to accomplish, and they're really afraid, or they just, they need that little bit of motivation to light a fire under them, what would you say to that person to take that first step?
Ooh, don't be afraid. Don't ever look at that fear. Just take those dreams and believe in them and get out there. Find a way to make it happen. I mean, I really think you've got to have the desire, and rather than thinking about, I need courage to do that. If you've got the desire, just get up and do it.
And you know what I always say, Avis? I've eliminated the word failure from my vocabulary because I've chosen to believe that there is no such thing as failure. To me, and let's use the word failure, when I fail, it really just means that it wasn't the right time for something, or it may happen down the road, or it just didn't work out the way I wanted to. And if you can take everything that happens to you as a learning experience and apply it to something else, and you eliminate the word failure, then you have nothing to fear.
And I think we learn from everything we fail at, and we only become better.
Avis, where can our listeners go to get more information about you and your work?
They can visit us at www.birdsnestfoundation.org.
Or as always, you can visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on our site, listen to past shows as podcasts, read the digital magazine, sign up for our mailing list, And be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. And also for our listeners, if you're in the Wayne, New Jersey area on Saturday, June 23rd, please stop by William Patterson University to hear me speak with Dr. Bernie Siegel at the Power of Positive Medicine Conference. If you'd like more information or to purchase tickets, the number is 973-713-6811. Again, that's 973-713-6811, or visit wellnessgala.com. Avis, in 30 seconds or less, what would you like our listeners to walk away with from this interview?
Start with hard work, a vision, perseverance, your passion, your dream, and I think you can make everything happen.
Avis, thank you so much for spending time with us and for sharing your passion with us, and hopefully it will inspire one of our listeners to get off that couch and, as you said, just get going.
Thanks for having me, Joan.
This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.